Right. I've shared the link here. What you guys can do is you can go ahead and, yeah. So how do you reach from A to B is something that we are trying to figure out. And in the process, we'll try to figure out how to codify the entire thing on how to go from A to B. Yeah. So in function and variable name should be more verbose. Okay. We do have a lot of inputs here. Okay. Give the function a better name, add docstring until purpose of function. Okay. Okay. This is what I was talking about, defining function parameter types. Need to define 2, 3, 5 as variables. That's a brilliant input. Type name should be declared for parameters and return type. Okay. We should define the type of return and it should return better variable name function. Okay. Got it. Add single line comments beside the variables which need instead of docstring, comment better naming of variables, leaving the lines for better readability. Readability is an important aspect. Yes. Got it. Got it. We can get confused whether they are string or integer type. We also, and also the parameters. Okay. Got it. Got it. So what we can see is we can see a pattern emerging. And let's try to codify that pattern later in the presentation. But what I can see is there are a lot of inputs that the function is complex, then add comments to simplify it. Got it. But do you think modularization is an important aspect? Let me just, should I divide the function into two parts? Actually, reduction is the process. Reduction. Okay. So just add upvotes if you think reduction is an important thing that you do while defining your own problem statements. I don't know what happened, but I'm seeing a lot less. Are you allowed to delete them as well? Okay, cool. I think we've got into a fair bit of understanding on what was missing. Right. Let's start with how do we define how to show intent. Okay, so I think all of the inputs, let's combine them in a single doc so that everyone can start using them when they come up with a solution which looks something like A to reach to a state which is something like B. Okay. But before going there, let's figure out why showing intent is important. The most important thing that I see important is just being able to communicate. Okay, so me being able to tell you that this function is a weighted sum is something that's not implicit, right? It has to be defined explicitly, and that's something that is absolutely essential in order to get feedback. But there are other things as well. It leads to lower bugs because you can understand the code well. It increases collaboration, which is something that we saw. It also allows for faster onboarding. You guys were all able to get onboarded to the second function rather than the first one. There is a lesser tech debt. There are faster dev cycles because the PR review process is extremely fast. Right. But why don't we do that generally? So what happens is either the problem is too complex. So if you're trying to figure out a clever way of multiplying matrices that no one else has done, if you're trying to reproduce something that is in a very dense maths paper, there is a lot of complexity, and you are not able to simplify that enough for the reviewer to actually review it, and that could become a problem. You can also assume that the previous code was written in a certain way, right? And you need to make it explicit that I was assuming that previous content was in this way, and that's why I'm writing this code, or show it in the reverse way as well, right? There could be efficiency concerns, so you want to make the code extremely convoluted because it leads to efficiency. So a 3-layered caching is something that you can do, but yeah, That's something that will lead to showing less of a intent. Sometimes it's also not being able to figure out what to write. Okay. There is a lack of review or feedback on whatever you're writing. So you stop doing that altogether. So if there is no cycle of feedback, there would be no intent showing. If I'm writing code for myself, I already have the entire context. I'll not write any code commits or any code. I mean, I'll not go through a manual code reviewing process, right? If it is a one-day job, I'll not do that. So there are places where this is not required. If I'm in a hackathon, I'll not write this kind of a code. I'll write the other one. Okay, so there are places where you want to show intent. There are places where you don't want to show intent. Okay, if you're new to a project, you don't know how to write good documentation or how to show show intent, and that's fine as well. Okay, so there could be multiple other ways, and I'm opening the floor right now on figuring out if you guys have ever written a piece of code like A and why you have done so. Right. Anyone can just unmute themselves and start sharing. Yeah.
For competitive programming purposes.
Okay. Yeah. That's a fair game because speed is important, and you're not writing it, and you're writing it for the compiler. So that's something that you would anyway do. Okay, fair enough. That's a point well taken. Let me just add it to the documentation as well. Okay. Cool. Moving on to the next one on how you can actually show intent when you're contributing to open source. Right. First thing first, we want to show async first intent. We don't want to get on a call and actually share intent on a call. That's not something that will happen, at least not in C4GT. You'll not be able to get on calls with your mentors so often. So what we are trying to do is we are trying to optimize on a mentor's time to be able to read your comments and then give feedback asynchronously. Okay, so yeah, just wanted to get that out of the way. Yeah. So there are different ways in which you can define intent. What I've done is I've shared, I think, naming variable functions, code structuring, doc strings, and readme something that you guys already do. Okay, what I want to show is a different kind of an intent that someone shows by just citing an author. Okay, so this is one brilliant way that I've seen on how to show a design pattern intent of a blog. Okay, so if I actually go to a blog, I'll show what page objects are and what the code below should look like. I can review it. I can do it better as a reviewer. So this is something that you guys should do. If you have copied something from Stack Overflow, don't just leave it at that. If this is something that you feel is a very good idea, then possibly you should start adding more and more of these type of comments in your code itself. Okay, if this is an archive-based paper, it is absolutely mandatory that you actually put in the link of the paper before you even start writing code. Okay, right. In terms of error messages, I think this is something that you guys have missed out on. So I don't know if you guys know Zod is a type checking library. How many of you guys know Zod? Okay. Got it. So Zod is a type checking library which has its own errors, and this is how they define the errors. So they have like these kind of Zod errors, and this is something that they define explicitly in order to figure out what's happening inside the code and what error should be thrown. This is something that you can do in your own code. This is an extremely good design pattern that allows you to decouple errors from an actual error showing mechanism. Okay. Yeah. I think for commit message, I've never seen something more comprehensive than Angular. So if you want to see how the best in class commit messages are written, just go to angular.js. it shows as an extremely detailed and a beautiful render by GitHub as well. So this is something that you should do essentially in most of your commits. There is also a library called commit is in that allows you to do that. So you guys can go ahead and see commit is in ka page, and I think you'll be able to set this up locally in order to actually write good commit messages. Right. In terms of PR messages, Google has an extremely good documentation on how you should define a change log and how you should basically allow the reviewer to actually go through the entire code even without actually going through the code. Okay, yeah. So these are some ways of showing intent. Test cases is something that we'll deep dive into, and let's just see how that happens. Okay, we'll go through a practical example of the same content. What I've done is I've created a repository that that allows me to define what I'm contributing. So this is the header of my PR. So this is PR number 1. I'm adding a new function. So this indentation or this highlighting shows that I'm adding a function already. So this is a keyword for me, and that's why I've used backticks to make it look like this. It's also similar in every single case. I'm adding a description. I'm adding that this is how you can run tests. Okay. When I'm showcasing what I've added, what I've done is I've added 3 files, or made changes to 3 files. One is the README of adding a documentation of the actual code that I've added. Then I've added test cases. And then what I've done is I've added a very similar code. And now this includes a lot more of nuance than what it was earlier. Okay, so I'm actually checking for a lot of things, if it is a float or an integer and so on and so forth. Okay, and it actually raises an error as well when things are not going well. Okay, right. Moving on to the next thing, there are some thumb rules that I follow. So I do follow that explicit is better than implicit. So even if the document is too verbose, I expect the reviewer to actually share that with me. Okay, which is what you guys did. That this is redundant documentation. You can remove that. That's a good feedback. If you are the one who is maintaining the library, that is the feedback that I'm looking from you guys. Okay, but if I'll not write that comment itself, no feedback would come in. So actually writing more verbose is something that I generally do. Simple code is better than complex code. Add as many braces as you require, add as many levels of abstraction that you require if it simplifies the process, but don't create hundreds of abstraction layers in order to make it complex. Okay, unless you are actually in a different domain where complex is something that everyone understands, then it becomes simple for that cohort. So then also it's simple greater than complex. Redundancy is greater than efficiency. So if a code is extremely efficient, it doesn't leave room for improvement. Having redundancy allows for that. So that's something that I should always keep in mind. And I can give, I think I can spend like an hour or so on every single point. And that's something that we can discuss later on what all you want to dive deep into. But yeah, standard patterns is better than custom patterns. No structure is actually better than bad structure. So don't structure your code unless you get a feedback. Okay, if you're contributing to a new library, just showcase your intent by solving the problem rather than structuring the code. That will allow you to get quicker feedback a lot faster. Small is greater than large is something that a lot of people do. If your PR is huge, no one will be able to parse that intent that this is what, and probably give feedback as well. They will not have, it's exactly like how LLMs work. You have a 10K context window. Okay, so you have a 10K intent window, and if you if you give more information, then that can lead to inefficient and incorrect review as well. So always small is greater than large. Create 20 PRs, ask them to pester them to block their time every single day to review your PRs, but create small PRs. That's absolutely essential. Right. In terms of testing, small tests are greater than large tests, because small is greater than large. Integration tests are actually more important than unit tests. So if you are able to show that the entire system is performing correctly, that's far more important than if a single instance of unit tests, although write both, but prioritize in this way. Okay. I'm not saying don't write unit tests. Absolutely write unit tests. There should be as much coverage as you possibly can. But yeah, do it in this order, essentially. Right. We'll come back to verification of intent now. Verification is absolutely essential because this is something that you want verified. There is a unsaid rule called trust but verify. So even if you're writing good code, I'll still go ahead and see what you're writing. Right. So
more than 10 hours of batting, where 23 fours would also be.
sorry, I'm not able to hear your voice.
Straight down the ground, completely on the onside to score runs.
Can you mute yourself or speak louder? Okay. Cool. I'm assuming there is no one doing that. Cool. So what we'll do is we'll get into verification. Right. Why is verification hard? I don't know how many of you guys have actually done verification. Have you done code reviews? Any of you? Or have you tried to read what someone has written? Got it. 1 second. Let me just pull this window up because I'm not able to see hands for everyone.
Chuck, actually, Shivam has raised his hand.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Hello.
Shivam, you can unmute and
I
speak.
think it was showing of intent that
Yeah, I have read someone else's code and I have tested. No, I have reviewed the PRs.
got it. So what do you expect when you are reviewing a PR from person?
First of all, I check if all the tests that are already made are passing or not. The unit
Okay.
test I check.
Okay.
Then I check if it is solving the intended purpose that it is made to, that the PR is like promising to do.
Okay. How do you define what the PR is in? Where do you define that intent? That this is what a PR is solving for? Do you write issues first? Do you write a ticket first and then only
Yeah.
a PR can be raised? Okay.
Yeah.
Is that a process that you define somewhere in your README as well?
No, so there was a org that I was working on during my
Okay.
GSOC. So
Okay.
so in that org, they had this rule. They had this rule in contributor.md.
Okay.
They
Got it.
created yeah, exactly. And they mentioned that you should have an issue first to create a PR. So
Got it.
yeah.
Got it. Fair enough. So you do define a process of how someone can review a code, right?
Yep.
So is that something that you enforce through some of the GitHub's tools?
Yeah, there are some automated tools like GitHub workflows to automatically test with all the unit tests and all in Python.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it. Makes sense. Cool. And you hook them up with a CI, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Got it. Okay. Cool. So what I've done is I've found over the years, what I've seen is that there are too many things that lead to me not verifying a PR. Okay. And what I've done is I've added this list of 7 items probably, and there could be 20 more. And that's something that I want you guys to to call that out. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to explain the ones that I see most commonly. Right. So there is no setup process that I can do it in 2 minutes. Okay. So if a PR is raised, I'm not able to set up the branch. I'm not able to set up the code. I'm not able to take a pull and set up the code because some of the environment variables are missing. Okay. So that's something that leads me to just verify the code without actually setting up the code. It's absolutely essential that whenever you are raising a PR, you should define how to set this up. Okay. And possibly even give a link that shows the veracity of the solution without actually me going and setting up. Okay. So that's one step forward that you can do. Right. Some of the other things that I've seen is unstructured document of intent. So even if you're writing trivial code, there needs to be a reason of why you're writing trivial code, right? You can write more complex code, right? So how do you define an intent on figuring out why are you writing this code? So that's absolutely essential. So you need to have a chain of thought on why you came up with this solution rather than something complex and so on and so forth. Okay. Have your PR smaller. Otherwise, it's too much intent, and I'm not able to go through every line of code at the same point in time. And this is something that happens quite a lot. Okay. There could be places where the solution is too complex or incomplete, and possibly even the requirements were incomplete to begin with, to actually go ahead and do that. This list may not be messy, but that's something that I've seen quite a lot. Okay. Sometimes I'm not able to. So if a code is multi-threaded, and let's say my development environment is not multi-threaded, how do I go about reproducing the same thing? That's something that happens quite a lot. Right. When I'm trying to verify, I'm trying to verify the same things. Actually, everything that I was expecting out of the actual intent, I'm trying to verify. So if the naming is right or not, functions are right or not, class names are right or not, code structure, doc strings, everything that you've documented earlier, is it correct or not? Okay. And how do I do that? I build a lot of processes, which is something that Shivam shared, that you define style guides. Okay. I can just show you a sample style guide that Google has. Okay. So they do allow for, so this is how your code is structured and so on and so forth. Okay. You should have contribution guides. You should have project structure, linting rules. All of these should be defined upfront and then enforced through a CI. Okay. I don't want to enforce them manually. I don't want to check every single intent manually. I want to do 90% of that through automation. I only want to actually go through the code that actually has the meat of it. Okay. So the entire verification part, 90-10 is the right way to look at it. 90% of that should be automated and 10% of that should be reviewed, essentially. Okay. I want to verify every single thing in this one. But at the end of it, I only want to see if your chain of thought was right or not, if this is the right solution, and if you coded it correctly or not. Okay. I don't want to get into 1 to 9. All of them are actually not required. Right. Right. How do you make it safe? So when I'm actually starting your code, can I do it on a staging environment? Have you not added a RMRF somewhere in the code to actually damage my environment? Is something that I do check. So basically, create different staging environments to allow for checking of code, and I can just give you an example later. But yeah, this is something that is absolutely essential. Have you not added some kind of a key? So GitHub Guardian allows you to remove any keys in the code. So actually add that as a plugin. Okay. And don't access any production services while you're pushing your code. Okay. Right. I'll just go and show a testing workflow that can be for a sample project. So this is a sample workflow. What is your input? What is your logic? Do you interact with data? And if you interact with data, do you have like CRUD data? Do you want to allow for every single thing, every single operation? What will happen if you lose rights for the CRUD and so on and so forth? So this document is absolutely essential to create at the very start of the project, so that every test that is written is coming through this only. You can add or remove. So if you have like APIs, or if you have like a front end, you can add 2 more sections to this to actually make it more comprehensive. But this is something that should be there in every single repository. And how does it help? It just helps me go and write simpler test cases. So let's say I've created a test case where I can see the test values are numbers, or if test values are none, if test has valid weights, if test has no inputs, extra inputs, and so on and so forth. So a lot of this can be automated if you're using the right language, not Java, but anything other than Java. Yeah. But yeah, you can add all of these to your frameworks and figure out what to do. Okay. Right. So the thumb rules that I follow generally are have a PR review workflow. Okay. Have a framework for how to comment and what to comment. You can go into these details. I'll share the entire, but since we are running out of time, I'll do this extremely quickly. I think all of these are standard processes. This is one that I wanted to show. So if you see this PR is extremely succinct. It fixes an issue that we were facing earlier. And what it does is it also deploys it, and I can see a preview right here in my PR. So what I can do is I can go ahead and see an actual preview happening if my internet allows me to do that. Yeah. And actually give some feedback here itself. Vercel allows you to do that. So if you have like a smaller, if you can just go ahead and do this kind of a setup, it's extremely simple to do. Just connect Vercel with your front end, and you should be able to do that. If you're working on a back end, add a Git pod link here itself. When I click on it, I actually go ahead and set up the entire Git pod. Okay, so that's something that you can do, which is analogous to a backend server. Right. Right. So you should also have this kind of structure in your CI. So you should test every single thing out there. So code style lint, if the code is actually compiling or not, if the docs are getting built or not, and then tests on multiple environments. So stable, beta, and nightly, all the tests are running on 3 different environments, and so on and so forth. So this is something that you should do, because they have different flags for different branches and so on. Different flags for different releases. Yeah. Right. If all of this doesn't work, just ask a mentor to actually get on a call and share the entire content, share the entire content and intent and reduce friction. That's something that you can do. If all of this is not working out and your PRs are still not getting merged, this is what needs to be done. Okay. If any of these things are not happening, you can ask your mentor to actually implement all of these things, or go ahead and implement all of these things yourself. It will take half a day to set all of these things up. Probably 2 days if you're new, but that's it. That's the kind of process that you can have. Yeah. Right. Questions? Cool. I see a lot of questions in the chat. Okay. No, these are not questions. Yeah, we'll share these slides on Discord. Okay. Cool. Any questions regarding any of the things that you guys are facing right now?
It's Suyas raised his hand.
Yeah, please go ahead and unmute yourself and start. I'll not be able to moderate as well, but yeah.
When are the commit descriptions a good idea? And should one try to write less than 50 words, one liner commit messages, or add descriptions too?
Right. So you can define if a single commit is going to do thing. If it is going to be a bigger PR, let's say you have 20 commits, then writing a commit message will not help. Like writing a commit description will not help. Commit message is absolutely essential. You have to do it every single time. Yeah. So it depends on how big the PR is going to be. But yeah, try to break. I would rather want 20 single commits in 20 different PRs rather than a 20 commit PR. Yeah.
You mentioned design pattern, but never dive deep into it. Is there design pattern that you particularly follow while programming any like idea that you have? Like
Right.
do you do singleton, factory? What is your like go-to design pattern?
What there is no go-to design pattern, and probably what we should do is we should take a design pattern. So what I can do is if there is demand for it, we can do this sessions more often. Okay, a 30-minute session on design pattern, something that we can work with, and we can actually go ahead and figure out why a particular design pattern is getting used in a particular situation. If that is something that you guys would want to dive deeper into. But yeah, it's totally open in terms of so what I'm assuming is that this is a starting point, and let's say you want 20 more sessions on 20 different things, and we can decide based on how many people are voting to actually figure out which ones we need to do first. Yeah. So it can be
Let's say for a given issue, you have you are coming up with 3 solutions, and each of them have like let's say they're very divergent. Say they're changing the code in different subsections, and you can't really put them in one single PR.
Okay.
As a single PR. So what would you do at that point if you're communicating asynchronously with your mentor? Do you raise 3 separate PRs, or do you
Right.
get 3 separate branches and something like that?
Right. So 3 separate branches is the way that I would go. I mean, 3 separate PRs is the way that I would go. You can have them in different branches in your own code. But raise 3 PRs, just ask for feedback, and create a master ticket. Refer the master ticket to actually communicate that these are 3 different solutions. These are 3 different PRs that are actually solving. But ideally, they should never come. So help me understand the context here. So are you raising 3 different PRs because you're not able to evaluate a single idea based on its merit without writing code? Is that so?
Yeah, that's the dilemma I'm facing.
Got it. So then I think you should write pseudocode to evaluate. Don't implement the entire thing. Okay, just try to figure out using pseudocode and create a small development environment, raise a PR based on that. Okay. And possibly what you can do is you can reach out to me asynchronously to actually brainstorm on because I don't know the size of the solution or the size of the pseudocode as well. So possibly we can come down by reducing the problem even further. So yeah, as much reduction as possible is something that you should go with in terms of sharing code. Okay, so if a pseudocode can do it to get feedback, just do pseudocode. If a comment can do that, do comment. If a decision tree can do that, use just a decision tree. Don't get into code if a decision tree can solve for it. Yeah. Right. Any more questions? Any more feedback? I can actually go ahead and get to another. Yeah. What would you want in future conversations? Or do you want these kind of sessions or not? Are these helpful? That's also a good feedback to have. Right. So can you type in what kind of sessions you would like me to deep dive into? I'm hoping this this will just open the doors for more communication. But yeah. Right. So what kind of a benchmarking are you looking at? Is it yeah, who was it?
Basically, whether our application is able to accommodate, hundreds of users at the same
Right.
time.
And why are you not able to do it right now?
I've never actually tested any of my personal projects for like so many users.
Right. So when you're benchmarking, is simulating a user a problem? Is this the problem statement that you're looking at?
Yeah, basically. So let's say, I mean, the modern databases that we use, like we make sure that there are no concurrency issues and all of that. So,
Right.
but
So
people still say
that's the other part of it. So possibly, so simulating a user, then actually sending the load to the server,
yeah,
and then reporting it are three different things. So right now, what is a problem? Are all three a problem? Are all three you would want to deep dive on?
I think I would want all three.
Got it. So this is one. I think there was some others in the chat as well. You can type in the chat, or you can send me a message later as well. I hope you guys have my Discord. Right. So hands-on on what, Harshit?
Hello.
Yeah. Yeah,
Actually,
Harshit, hands-on on. Yeah.
Actually, I was just saying the point that Mohammed Zaid has said in chat. Actually, he has explained it better in that.
1 second. Sorry, I'm just looking at the chats. So hands-on exercise on what? So hands-on exercise on writing test cases, or hands-on on solving a problem statement, writing actual code? What kind of a hands-on would help?
Actually, I was thinking like maybe some kind of PR or like some kind of small issue if you have like because in GitHub session previously the Shruti showed us how to do everything. So I was kind of expecting that. That's why.
Right. So in terms of hands-on, there are three parts to it. One is actually reducing the problem. So I think there is a session that has already happened on reducing a problem, right? Yesterday. Reducing a problem to a smallest element to be able to actually write a code. Then you actually write the code that solves the problem. And then what Shruti had a session on Git would come later. So where is it that you're facing the problem right now?
Actually, we want some hands-on testing, hands-on experience for testing, because we have not now tested our personal projects in large scale, like as you said.
Got it. So got it. Hands-on on. Correct. What kind of a testing are you looking at? So there could be different kinds of testing. What is the testing environment that you guys have? Is it a mix of unit integration, or do you even want to deep dive into testing as a thing, and then write one unit test, one integration test, and one end-to-end test? Is that something that you guys are looking at? So a large scale system. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to reduce the problem. So I think you guys can, if it helps, what you can do is can we create an anonymous Okay, so hands-on on all of these. Okay. Cool, we can do that. Actually, what we should do is we should try doing this end to end on a single problem statement that any one of you are facing. And yeah, we can do it then. Okay, I think we can wrap this up. Cool. So Abhishek, how
Okay.
do we get more?
Yes, yes.
How do we get more feedback in terms of what sessions? contributors
Normally,
require?
what we will do is that we'll share a form with the
Okay.
contributors, and they
Okay.
can share their ideas, whatever they want, the feedback. I mean, what kind of session they want on, and we
Okay.
can share that with you. This
Got
is
it.
fine.
Makes sense.
Okay, thank you.